Welcome, welcome. April 17th. 17, it's 4/17/17. If you write the dates like that, 4/17/17, I wrote dates like that. 4/17/17. Who'da thunk? April already. You know what? We were just having a computer discussion.
Welcome, welcome.
And the funny thing is, to me, is that with computers, and anyone who's been on a computer, which is all of us because we're on a computer, knows that you love computers and you hate computers because you can do the same thing over and over, and sometimes it works and sometimes it does not. And my favorite email that I get is somebody will say to me, "What am I doing wrong?" And I'm like, I don't know. Like, how am I supposed to know what you're doing wrong? But anyway, and I recognize it's not a literal question. It's just a question of frustration. What am I doing wrong? So we are happy to be here because without these computers, which drive us all crazy, we would not get to all you all because I could not get to that many places. So I, for one, am really grateful for computers. I don't care how bad they are. I love them, and we know we all do. All right, so welcome, welcome. We are doing a question answer period. I have questions that you all have sent. And last time I didn't do good. I offended. People got mad at me. I all kinds of problems. So I'm going to do better this time. And I promise I've practiced being nice. So the goal is to really help you, obviously. But before we do that, we're still going to... And then also I did some pattern fabric combinations so that we could just start to see things a little bit different perspective. My perspective, your perspective. I don't think there's a right or wrong. I think it's just a matter of sharing one another's perspective, and that way we look at things differently. I think that's the goal. All right, so we'll start off with our questions and answers. Hi, I'm from Northern California. My question: when making the forward shoulder adjustment on front with a pinch, how is the back supposed to compensate? Well, whatever you take away from the front, you should add to the back, because total is right. You don't need to change the total. You just want to change where the placement is. So you can take off the front, but then you just add to the back. So if you pinch out the front, you add a pinch to the back. And not at the neck, just at the shoulder. You're not moving. You probably don't need to move the place at the base of the neck. It's just right over here that you're moving. All right. Can you explain the difference between the W sizing 1 through 4 versus 5 through 8W? Oh, I'm so excited. That question came in. Thank you for asking that. So speaking of computers, we're going to go to silhouettepatterns.com. I don't know if you can do it right now. And you're going to go over to the very front page. On the left-hand side, it says New, Frequently Asked Questions. I nailed it. I got that one. That one's on there. So then you can click on that and you can open up several pages of Frequently Asked Questions. So I wanted to tell you all, I forgot actually until you asked that question, that we did put those up. We're just going to keep amending and adding to them. So maybe every month or 2 months or something, print out the new ones or open the new ones, because we'll keep updating them and we'll keep adding to them. But to answer your question, you poor person, you didn't know I was going to get all this excited about your question, is the grading. And they're two different bodies. And I don't know how well I explained this. You all can tell me. But the regular sizes are really graded on the base of bone structure. And as the bone structure gets larger, the pattern gets larger, the shoulders get wider, the arms physically get larger, the hips get wider, the bones. Think of the bones and where the bones change. That's how the pattern grades, because that's when patterns were first created, 50s, whatever the numbers was. Structured patterns. That's how they were done. However, and I didn't put this part in, but my connections... Well, that doesn't matter. But anyway, Saks Fifth Avenue and JCPenney got together and did a huge, a very, 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 very expensive research, and discovered that because Saks Fifth Avenue had a customer who was a size 24, and they would come in and put a suit on, even though they were willing to pay a lot of money for the suit. And the suit just fit horrible. The shoulders were too wide, everything was too big, yada, yada. So they decided that they did not know that customer. They didn't know a woman who had gained weight. She was actually not a large boned woman, so her shoulders didn't get wider, because you can't take a pattern that's been fitted to a fit model who's a size 8 and graded up for a 24. There's no body that even looks like that. So they redid it all, and they actually had a fit model come in. The fit model is a woman who had gained weight, very proportioned, nothing out of proportion on someone who gains weight. And so they redid the sizes, and the grading is W sizes is the grading based on weight gain. So she's actually a smaller boned woman in most cases, depends. But the shoulders don't grade out, the neckline doesn't grade out. And how you can tell the difference if you measure your upper arm and you are over 15 inches, your upper arm is over 15 inches, you're probably in that W size. I then also said that in pants, W's and regulars really don't have a lot of difference because the waist and the hips don't change that much. As the waist gets larger, usually the hips get larger on a woman because we gain weight in our waist and hips. And so we did W sizes on all of the skirts and all of our pants just to keep the consistency. But you'll find, like in the yoga pants, you can choose 2 sizes and they're almost identical, just simply because how the sizes cross a little bit. So I'm hoping that answers your questions. If it doesn't, let me know because I can amend my answer. And that's the goal, to get that frequently asked question page, FAQ page, we want to get that better and better and better. So we just want to refine it until it is really giving you the answer that makes sense and is logical and is true. All of those things come together. How many patterns may I bring to a 3-day workshop? It's really funny because about a year ago, I never had any issues with these. Nobody brought that many. Well, I had a workshop that I hope I don't offend anybody by saying this, but anyway, somebody brought like a dozen. And that's just so much more work for you. I don't care about draping, but for you, that's like way too much work. So I also explained in this FAQ, and I'm going to get to answer your question. I haven't forgotten it. 6 is the answer. And the reason the answer is 6 is because you should only be covering your bases with muslins, like 1 in each base. Even when you come to Spiffy Workshop, you're bringing 9, but that's because you're bringing duplicates of some. So you should only be bringing 6 muslins. Now, the reason why is, let's say you bring, as an example, 195, which is our sweater set. Everybody knows that. And then you bring Candosa's top, the one I have on, 197. Yeah, 197. You should do the same changes that you did to the sweater set to 197 and then make a muslin of 197. So the goal in the workshop is for you to understand what I'm doing, understand the changes, be able to transfer the changes to the muslin, and then start to recognize when a pattern looks right and when it starts to look askew. You want to visually start to pick up on what that is. The goal is just not to mass produce a whole bunch of muslins and for me to come in and fit them all. The goal is to get you to understand when the patterns are looking right, what changes need to make place. So that's why I limit now to 6. It doesn't mean you can't make others in the workshop, but you've got to be able to understand what you're doing. The next reason I limited it to 6 is because, again, women who brought more, they went home and they were like dizzy-headed. They had no clue what one was or the other, or, it was just like almost overwhelming to them. It wasn't to me. Like I said, I fit them. They went home. No big deal to me. I'm just draping muslins. It's like, for me, drinking tea. It's just a walk in the park. But for you all, it was just too much. So I'm going to tell you that's why I limit you to 6. I just did a workshop in Chicago, and it's working very well to limit them to 6. So I would pick those 6 within a reasonable category, like, what makes the most sense. Don't do 5 knit tops, or I wouldn't, but I would definitely do that little tank top. It's a really power hitter. You really want to have a nice fitting tank. Once the fit is done, you can crank them out really quick. I would do a knit. I would, think through what is your sewing, what do you want, and then go from there. That was way long an answer. The answer is 6, but I wanted you to understand why, okay? Peggy, could you talk about 3015 Evelyn's culottes, please? Could I make with a woven or just a knit? You can make with either one. You just have to, if you make with a knit, figure out, I can't remember on that pattern how you get them on. Can you pull up 3015 for me? I don't remember off the top of my head if there's a zipper. 3015. It's in the notion list. Oh, it's just a pull-on. Yeah, no, it's just a pull-on. So you can make them out of woven or knit. It should say that. Look under fabrics. Does it say woven or knit? Right there under materials? Yeah, right there. See on the pattern back? Under materials?
Any knit. Fabric with stretch. The stretch should go around the body.
Okay, I remember now. Okay, thank you. So if you make them out of woven, you're not, this is like a yoga pant, a yoga skirt, the culottes are. So if you make them with a woven, you got to figure out how you're going to get them on. Okay? So you're going to have to stick to knit unless you decide to you could put a little invisible zipper in the side seam. You could do any of those things. But otherwise, it's based for a knit pattern. Okay, how can you draft a facing piece for a V-neck? Every time I create one, my shoulder seams do not match with the original garment. Hey, North Texas. Well, you probably aren't doing anything wrong. All you're going to do is lay the pattern down. You're just going to lay the pattern down, trace the shape. A V-neck is actually not straight. We're doing a YouTube that is on this Thursday. And I really like this Thursday YouTube. It's probably a little more intricate than some of you want, except that it's on stripes and it's on matching the chevron stripes. And we needed it to be intricate because there's so much misinformation out there about creating those chevron stripes that it really just kind of drives me crazy that all of these YouTubes are telling you how to do it when it doesn't work. And nobody has an actual end result product on there showing you that what they're teaching you didn't work. It's amazing to me. Anyway, so when you're creating a V-neck is not a straight line. It's a placement on the French curve. So if you just trace the width of the shoulder, hold that pattern piece firm, and then decide how wide you want it. You have to have you don't have to have a seam for center front. That's not true. You can place them on the fold. And if they're not meeting at the shoulder seam, just something you're doing wrong in that process. There's nothing, rule-wise that you're doing wrong. Just either you're not tracing accurately or you're not cutting your paper or your fabric accurately. It's in that process. But you trace the neck edge, you trace the angle of the shoulder, center front, make sure it's either on a fold or seam allowance, same as whatever the garment is you're doing, and then sew it together. Okay? How do I lower the dart on 500? Well, you guys, there is a lengthen or shorten line. This is not 500, so I'm just using it as an example. There is anytime, not a French dart, you should not be lowering a French dart, because a French dart, if you want to lower it, you'll just stop stitching earlier. You literally don't have to move the whole dart down. But with a dart that comes in horizontally or another angle, you want to lower the whole dart because you don't want to have to change the angle. You don't want to change the tip. You don't want to do any of that. So if you notice under the armhole and above the bust point, there's this area in here. It's called the free zone. And I'm going to just take a couple little notes there because that should be a FAQ. I think. Because so many of you just want to change the dart or do something different to it, where all you do is cut and add. Just put in a strip all the way across the front, and it lowers that dart down. And the goal of that dart, in my opinion, now this is opinion because keep in mind that the dart just has to enter the bust circle. And anywhere that dart enters the bust circle, even if it's above the bust point, it is correct. My goal, in my opinion, on darts is that they should come underneath the bust so that they're non-visible. Darts are not a design feature, they're a fit feature. So I personally think darts should not be visible, especially bust darts. But again, that's solely my opinion. So I'm going to cut, I'm going to add. I don't have to change the dart at all. It's exactly right the way it is. That's a length issue. Everybody okay with that? LCD, that's a length issue. And then because I've added in the front and not in the back, I should just take off the bottom. I can just cut off the bottom. Whatever amount I added, just cut off the bottom, the same amount all the way, and it'll leave my top exactly the same. It will just do what I wanted to do, which is lower that bust dart. Okay? That is a good question, and I will keep it in mind. Forward shoulder. When you subtract from the front and add to the back, how do you change the sleeve? The same exact way. You take the sleeve, and let me take that off of my little pattern hook hanger here thing. Hope you all like your pattern hangers. We've sold so many of these little pattern hangers. We have these now, and they're wonderful. They're the best way to organize your patterns. They're just so easy. All right, so this is the front, this is the back. I'm going to cut to the bottom, and I'm going to take away from the front because you took a pinch out of the front, and then I'm going to cut, and it's between the notch and the dot up here at the top. I'm going to cut that and open that. So you're going to close up the front, open the back. Same exact thing. Whatever you did to the shoulder, you do to the sleeve. You just do it through the cap to the hem and close up the front, open the back. Okay, you want that the center point to hang. It's not really a center point, but you want the grain or the straight to hang from the seam. Okay, it'll give you the most mobility too. Okay. Thank you, Brett, for being here. He's my behind-the-scenes kind of guy. In buying fabrics online, what do you look for good ones versus bad? Besides buying them all from you. No poly. Limit poly to a certain percent. Any fiber content to avoid. I would not say no poly. I've got poly on. This is Candosa's top. I just made it. I love it. It's a lace poly. It's from France. So there's the problem. Now, here's the bigger problem. And, you know, look, besides buying from me, you can't, when you're buying online, the reason you're buying from me or the reason you feel confident in buying from me is you know that I'm only going to get stuff that's really good. And you start to trust my taste. That's really what you're doing is you're trusting my taste. So when you buy from any place, are you trusting their taste? So I don't buy fabrics just to have fabrics. Is that fair? I'm buying fabrics that are current and contemporary that will help you get great garments. You know, and I know that sounds like a sales pitch. I'm not trying to make a sales pitch here. What I'm trying to do is explain to you that it's a difficult process, and I don't know that I can give you guidelines because you can take a fabric that is all the requirements of the fabric are what they should be, and it's made in France. And you can take that exact same fabric, and China is duplicating that fabric made in France. It's the same fabric content, but it's cheaper quality, cheaper thread twist, cheaper all of those things. And you're never going to know it until you get the fabric, handle the fabric, use the fabric, and find out that it's lousy quality. So I don't care that you buy from me. Obviously, we're selling a lot of fabrics. But the reason we're selling a lot of fabrics is because you found that you can trust the fabrics I sell. Is that fair? So any place you buy, and I wouldn't just buy randomly, but you develop relationships with certain places. That's all. There's a lot of good fabric sources out there, and I think that you'll find others, but just develop relationships and know that you can trust what they're buying and their taste. You know, I think I don't know what else to say on that. It's not about content. It's not, and it's, you know, it's not hard to buy online, but you have to develop a little bit of a relationship prior, or you have to be prepared to get burned a little bit, if that's fair. If you find something that's really inexpensive and you say, I'm going to go for it, be prepared to get burned on that, and then go from there. Okay? Because you can't feel it, can't touch it, can't light a match to it, can't do any of those things when you're buying online. I hope that helps. I'm trying to help, really. I think it's hard. I don't buy fabrics online, and as much as I sell fabrics online, I think it's a hard thing to do. But I can look at fabrics now and kind of tell what they feel like from the places I buy from. But I'd still rather go because I'm buying. You know, I want you all to trust me. I want you to continue to trust me. I want to trust myself. So I want to make sure that what I'm buying is really good stuff and that I'm happy with it, that I would wear it personally. Although I don't obviously get to wear all of it. As much as I make all these clothes, I don't get to wear all of the fabrics. Hi, Marianne. Please talk about thread. Do you use silk thread with silk fabric? No, I use all poly thread. I don't use any silk thread. I don't use any cotton thread. I don't, see again, poly, if you go through the development of what they've done with fibers and threads, poly has been morphed to where it can imitate silk, cotton, anything else out there. Now, when I say that, truly, they can imitate it. I mean, we did a PBS show where Hager Slacks was making incredible things with polyesters. But still, and we know that polyester fabrics are used for wick-away. So clearly some polyesters have evolved above other polyesters, just depending again on where you're buying them from. So having said that, there's no need for a cotton thread. There's no need for a silk thread. They're not stronger. They're not any of those things anymore, except for more expensive, because the polyesters have replaced it. And even if I'm a polyester snob and I don't like wearing it for whatever reason, it's thread. It's just simply thread. Now, if I'm a purist and I don't want it, then that's reason enough because it's your sewing. But I'm just, polyester holds its color better. It can dye to a greater variety of colors, etc., etc. It's stronger, it's better, it's cheaper. Put some reasons and some logic to why you want to do what you want to do. Now, because it's sewing, if you just want the reason to be because, that's okay too. I'm okay with that. But it doesn't hold up well in court, okay, if that's fair. What exactly is drape? How do you judge how drapey a fabric is? Drape is how liquid the threads are. So dense threads and high twists get a fabric to drape better. This is a good example here. This is a loosely woven fabric, and it doesn't have a lot of drape because there's so much air in there. As you compact those fibers and put them close together, you can see that the drape is completely different. This doesn't drape. So this isn't going to do really well on a skirt unless it's a straight skirt. And what a straight skirt does is it has a lot of direction. A yoga skirt doesn't have a lot of direction. It's an A-line, so I want to find something that's more drapey like this so that it will hang better than what a straight skirt. A straight skirt has more direction, so I can use fabrics that don't drape well because the seaming and the darts and all that do more of a role in getting that skirt to hang straight than what it does in a yoga skirt. Does that help? So drape is simply how compact the fibers are, how high twisted they are, and in recent years they've taken fabrics that didn't drape well and they've sped up the twist and they've increased the twist until those fibers are beginning to drape. We all want drape in most cases because drape is what makes us as women look thinner. And I don't know a woman on the planet who just doesn't want to look thinner. That's just who we are. It's in our DNA. So it's all good. All right, are we good? All right, that was fun discussion, you guys. I love discussing this stuff with you guys. Again, I need to, like I said, we will keep updating that FAQ page because I think that we can cover a lot of this stuff to where it can really be a great place for you to come and get answers. And then you all know you email me and can get questions. Okay, so we had a lot of discussion this week about fabric pattern combinations. And I think, do you mind, Brett, I'm sorry to ask you this. The very front page, is that video special still going? If you buy what's that video special? The fabric always wins. You know, I think that as I talk a lot about this, the fabric, many of us have a pattern. I know I'm a pattern company. Trust me, I understand this. We have a pattern, and then we seemingly want to go get fabric for it. And you can do it that way. There's nothing wrong with doing it that way, but I'm going to say to you that sometimes we push items together that don't belong together. We start with the fabric, let the fabric do what will bring out the most in the fabric. And so I'm going to start with these. I did get some requests to make some fabrics, pattern combinations, and so I did do a few of those. And I'm going to share those with you first. The one I have on is Candosa's top. And I love this pattern. It's a new pattern. It's $197. And And the principles that I pulled together here are just simply principles that will work across the board 100% of the time. And so it's really the principles I want to talk about. It's not necessarily this fabric and this pattern, bam, together. So the most classic of all is that when you are wearing, I don't think y'all can see my jeans, but anyway, it's almost like a little uniform. I see it all the time with jeans and a black shirt, black top. So black is sometimes considered dressy, maybe not, but jeans have a tendency to pair the two together and make that combination of jeans and a black top really commonly worn. And I may be saying something many of you know, but I've noticed many of you don't know it, because I've seen you dress, and I don't see the combination also, but jeans and a black shirt, and then oftentimes just black flats, boots, whatever's going to be worn on the bottom. So when I was doing this, my whole goal was, I haven't had a black top in a while. I know of a couple, but anyway. And so I really want Candosa's top and a black top. So when I started thinking that, I thought the top part is just going to be something loose and lazy and easy. And we had this black lace and I loved it. And then the bottom is just a black rayon. So, and I know you probably can't see the details. Then what I did is I put the neck together, and instead of sewing it together, I just did a black fold over trim. So very simply done. The idea is anything that's sheer, loose, see-through, any fabric you like, with a base underneath it, and then with a pair of jeans or leggings, either one. Okay? All right. So then I want to go to this particular fabric. This is a new fabric we've put up. It's actually 2-yard pieces. It's 1 7/8 yards. And so because that's one panel, we're not going to cut those panels. So you kind of have to buy the 1 7/8 yards. And so that price that you're seeing is for the 1 7/8 yards. But there's a lot of great stuff done with stripes right now. In fact, Thursday's YouTube is on stripes. And even if you don't make it, I'd strongly encourage you to watch it, because there's a whole lesson on grain and bias and all that other kind of stuff. And I think it's good stuff. But anyway, with this, what I wanted to show you is, and I think that for many of us, the verticals and the horizontals are kind of normal. You know, we see a lot of times horizontal strips, we see a lot of vertical strips, but I had seen this at a store and I just absolutely loved it. Now, I don't know if you all can see it, but that stripe goes angularly, and then it just picks up on one sleeve. The back is black, and then the other sleeve is black. It's really beautifully done. I just absolutely fell in love with it. And very easy to do, and I think very different than what I typically see. And it was very expensive. I don't remember the designer on it, but in the particular case of the designer, all of these pieces were actually cut and sewn to black and white to get it to match, whereas I happened to have this fabric and it was perfect, and so I put it at an angle. Keep in mind that when you do something like this, you have to have a fabric that has stretch in both directions, because the angular needs the stretch and the vertical. Both ways need stretch. This fabric is 100% cotton. And then I had these beautiful lace inserts, and to put that on as a focal point, I want you to try to imagine it for a minute without it, and you can see all the attention goes right here to the hips. I didn't want that. And what this does is it pulls the eye up right back into where we want people to look, which is the face. So to me, this makes it a total package rather than everyone staring at your hips. I love the angular, don't get me wrong, but I didn't want to leave the eye there. And so that little touch of that neck piece really pulls it up. So what your fabric looks like is this. And you would not go wrong with making a beautiful blouse. You could put it around you. You could put it up and down. The stretches in both directions. There's nothing wrong to it. I just really like this angle, and I love asymmetric. You all know that I love that silly asymmetric. You know, I think it's just because there's nothing, you know, I'm just a crooked angular person. Everything's crooked on me. My body's not straight. So I just really like that, and I hope you like it. So that was just an idea, fabric pattern, and something that may be a little different. Okay. Any questions on that? I know we're running a little, we have like 30 seconds, right?
Yeah.
We're just a little bit behind. Okay. All right. Should I not make a straight skirt from a drapey fabric? Of course you can, but recognize if you have a drapey fabric, you have, let's think of fabric categories and pattern categories. And let's say one of these categories is drapey fabrics. And the minute, if you're on a computer, the minute I hit drapey fabrics, more pattern options hop up to me. And then the minute I hit straight skirt over here, fewer fabrics disappear over here. You can make a drapey into a straight skirt, but when you have drapey, you have all of these categories that are up, and a straight skirt it's not wasting that drapey fabric, but it's simply not necessarily the best use for it, because there's some fabrics that I have that can't do a straight skirt. Does that make sense? Is that a better way to say it? You can do anything you want. I'm just saying a drapey fabric doesn't need the structure. It's kind of wasting the structure of a pattern that is more structured to put in a drapey fabric. Why go to all the work to make it structured into a straight skirt when I could just do a yoga skirt in 2 seconds and have it done, and I don't need all the pattern work that comes with a straight skirt? I guess that's what I'm trying to say. How did you cut the sleeve? Could the stripes be put on the top? The stripes could be put on the top, of course. That's a good question. I forgot to answer that, so I appreciate it. You can put the stripes anywhere you want to. Just keep in mind, where do I want my eye to go? And because I want the eye to be drawn as much vertically as possible, I don't want it going through the bust, because I don't want everybody staring at my bust. And if you put it at your bust, how are you going to get them off of your bust? So the idea that I started with was I wanted them to continue into the sleeve. And if you measure down from the underarm seam to the top white stripe, and then I measure from the underarm seam on the sleeve to the top white stripe, then they'll match. And keep in mind, whenever you do this, they don't have to match perfectly. You can still get the visual when they don't match perfectly. But the alignment, or somewhat alignment, is measured down from the underarm on the bodice and then the underarm on the sleeve. And those 2 points should be fairly close together. Okay? And again, when you're going through this process of designing, think to yourself, where's the best place to put this? If I moved it up too high, I couldn't really continue it over to the sleeve, or without it going right through the bust. So I was actually better off to cut it low and then add the focal point in some way or another. You could have added a different focal point, or you could have left it. But keep in mind, if you leave it, then you see that the focus goes to the bottom of the body, which is okay too. That's not wrong. It's just not where I want my focus to be. Okay? Okay. What would be the match points? What would the match points be to match the stripe on the body? Oh, that's what I told you. You measure down from the side seam to the white stripe, and then the side, and then the underarm seam to the white stripe. Now, because I was actually making this to show you all, I stuck with one panel. You could have done it on the back. My back is solid black, because otherwise it would have jumped up to another panel, and it would have been $80 right for the top. And I wanted to keep, it's $39.99 for the for the 2 yards, and I wanted to keep it economical. If you wanted to match it across the back, then all you do is lay it down and then cut the back. And you can get the back to be doing just the opposite, which I think would be really cool, because you could still end up with a black sleeve. I think that'd be really pretty. But when I was doing this, considering that many of you duplicate outfits I create, I didn't want to push you into that $80 mark, just because that's for a t-shirt, that's a lot. And it was just meant to be a casual t-shirt. So that was the goal. All right, the pattern is pattern number 113. 113 is Sunny's top. It's the same as 195. I just used 113 because it's already elongated. And so it was just easier to lay it down than use my sweater set, which I have to add length to. It's the same base. The neckline's a little bit different. Sunny's top is a little wider, but I wanted that anyway. 195 is a little more closed in here. Okay? All right, let's put her away. Let's pull this one up. Again, these are just fabric pattern combination ideas. There's so many. We've got just some beautiful fabrics right now that I just, is really, it's hard. It's hard to cut down, but I just went for what have I been dying to cut into, and this is some of the stuff I've been dying to cut into. All right, so this is it's called Pink. I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, it's a terry cloth, and I took 2 yards. I threw in the washer, threw in the dryer, and it came out just as fluffy, and it's just great stuff. I really like it. I love this on. I love this on. Sweet Pink. Thank you, Britt. Sweet Pink reversible terry knit. So I did this. I picked this pattern. This is 114, and I picked the pattern because I had this neck piece, and I wanted to create this neck piece. And the cool thing about this neck piece, well, first off, I just think it's really pretty. It's little silver beads, but you cannot see through. They hang like that, and they go down here, but even when it's on, you can't see a bra, you can't see anything. So it's just pretty. You could put this neck piece anywhere. But on the pattern, it was already cut because there's a piece right here on the original pattern on 114, and all I did was change the angle. I kept this point the same and changed the angle down here to where it was the depth of this piece, so I could just put it in and top stitched. It was so easy to do. The band was already on the pattern, so I just went ahead and did the band all the way. And the band keeps this where it's supposed to be. I did put a seam down center front, and there's pockets here, and I eliminated the pockets because the pocket was a contrast. I probably could have still done a regular pocket. That might have been cute, but I've decided if I contrasted it, I would really take away from the focus, which was right here, and I didn't want to do that. This particular pattern, I just love this pattern. It has zippers up the side. People are always saying to me, I gain and lose weight. Which top what's the best way to gain and lose weight? This thing, because when you're at your highest, you zip it up, and when you get lower and skinnier, you can zip it down, and you're really excited that the zipper's closed. There's a zipper on each side, and I just put that right into the seam. Then there's a band at the bottom, and I use the selvage. The selvage is really just cute on here, just loosey-goosey, and it's terry cloth, so to have it on is really comfortable. It's really easy, and I thought that was a great fabric pattern combination. I wanted an easy fabric and an easy top, and together to me they went well. And then I made a little pair of leggings that matched, and I just used a pair of this is a stretch cotton. Make sure the stretch is going around you, and it's just a great fabric. Cute, easy outfit. None of this is complex or takes a long time to sew, and it's just fun. It's just fun as it evolves, and it's fun to put on. On the sleeves, it was a longer sleeve. I cut it off, and then I just rolled it up. And again, I really like the contrast on the sleeves. Fits really cute. You'll see it on me. I can't wait to wear it. I haven't worn it yet. The patterns for this one is 114. It's called BP's Zippered Top. This is the leggings, 5019. And then I think I said this one that I did the black top on was 113 with Sunny's top, and the one I have on is Candosa's. You guys, and I don't know if you all know, or because some of you go straight to YouTube, but every time at the end of a webcast, we put a page up on the website, view our previous webcast, and it goes to a whole page where the previous webcasts are, and we list all the patterns and all the fabrics and the neck pieces. We list everything just so that, honestly, we do it so you don't ask us, and I don't mean that, but we just try to minimize emails. So if we put it all on that page, then you can reference it even after the fact. And I think it's helpful even after the fabric's gone so that you can see what kind of fabric and what kind of pattern we put together. And I think that's helpful in just teaching you and learning new stuff so that we're kind of on the same page. Okay. Is that all right? Okay, so let's go into your questions that you sent me. I wanted to do my little pattern fabric combinations. We did 3. Your goal is to do 3 this week, right, you guys? Before Thursday, because come Thursday, you're going to want to do that top that we're going to put up on Thursday. It's really cute. It's a cold shoulder. I should just tell you that. Okay. This is a question I need my glasses, sorry. All right. So this question is they've been wanting to do a summer dress and they wanted to do straps. So let's just say straps instead of the neck edge and all that. So let's say you're just going to start with any pattern and it's going to have a neckline and it's going to have an armhole. Whatever you want the strap to be, you'll do the same to the front and you'll same to the back. Let's just say I'm going to cut it off straight like so. I'm just going to cut it off square. It's going to come straight across my chest, and that's the amount I'm taking off. If I measure from this point that I'm taking off up to this point, minus seam allowance, that's going to be the length of my strap. I do it in the front and the back, and that's exactly how my strap, the right length, is going to take the place of what I have folded away. This is a very easy process to do. So there's two things you've got to do. You've got to figure out where you're going to cut it off, and you could cut the whole thing normal and then just decide where you want to cut it off and cut it off. Once you do that, you measure the length it is and you make the strap. Now, the strap has to be attached over the bust point. If the strap is too far outside the bust point, the straps won't stay up. They'll just constantly fall off. There's an angle of your shoulder, and there's a shoulder blade in the back of your body. And in the primary garment, there's a dart right there, and that strap has to go over that dart. But if you just keep it over your bust point, you'll be fine. You don't have to worry about the rules. But just keep in mind that it's got to go up and over, and you can cut the back lower. It's okay as long as they meet at the sides. But just measure whatever you took off the front, measure whatever you took off the back. That's how you make this strap. Very simple to do. All right. Oh, I really wanted to talk about this. This is something I need to put on FAQs. I get this a lot. And I think it's a good question because it's asked a lot, so it must be a good question. When you have, and this is just, we don't know, and as soon as we know it, we can change what we think. Whenever you have a one-piece sleeve, a one-piece sleeve is just, as we know, a sleeve that looks like so. And a one-piece sleeve is always going to have a twist to it. And the twist lines usually will show up right around in the upper arm area. And the reason being is because our arms are not straight, they're bent. And when we have a one-piece sleeve and our arm bends, the sleeve doesn't bend and our arm does. And so the sleeve twists, and it twists from the elbow to the shoulder. So I've gotten lots of people taking pictures of those and saying, oh, look at this twist in my sleeve. And it's interesting because everything we buy, every one-piece sleeve out there, twist. We just haven't noticed it until we go to make it, and then we're a little more, and we all know this, we're more picky about the stuff we make than the stuff we buy. So the way to stop that is to put in a two-piece sleeve. Two-piece sleeves are used in jackets, and they're used in jackets because the fabric is heavier. And the twist looks really bad, so that's when they go into a two-piece sleeve. If it drives you crazy, you could put a two-piece sleeve in your blouses. All of our blouses and all of our sleeves, you guys know that, are interchangeable, so I could take 709 or 900, or some of those have two-piece sleeves, and I could put them in a blouse sleeve, 600 if I wanted to. Knits don't have two-piece sleeves. They just don't ever two-piece sleeves on knits because they just don't. They're too soft, they're too drapey, they don't need to have that much direction, that much pattern direction. All right, so diagonal twist in a one-piece sleeve is normal. If it just irritates you to no end, go to the high-end blouses, check it out, see it, then do a two-piece sleeve. Okay, but a twist in the one-piece sleeve is normal. Okay, can we talk about fusible? So I included this on FAQs because I do get a lot of questions on fusible, and then I put a link to the article that we have there on fusible, how to apply it, I should say. So one of the questions I got is they had taken a fusible and they had adhered it to a knit, and then when the knit stretched, the fusible bubbled or pulled away. Well, fusibles aren't for knits. They're stretch fusibles. They are knit, but they're not for knits. And I know that probably doesn't make much sense until you know why. But the reason being is because knit has better drape than woven fabric. Always, across the board. The fibers are closer together, the fibers are tighter twisted. As we talked about earlier, there's better drape in knit. When I fuse two things together, if I fuse two wovens together, I will all but kill any kind of drape that's left in that fabric. Because the wefts and the warps are just fighting each other, and they can't relax and they can't drape. So the whole idea of fusible tricot knit on a woven gives that woven better drape than what it did prior to having no fusible on it. Okay, so fusible knit is for wovens, not for knits. Knits can't handle any fusible. If a knit can't do what it's supposed to do on its own, then it's, don't use the fabric. You can't stabilize it, you can't get it to drape, you can't do any of those things with a fusible. The only time I fused a knit is when I was making a jacket. It was a knit. I've got the example here. This is a knit base, and I decided that I would not use the knit. I didn't need it, I didn't want it, I wasn't interested in using it, and so I simply fused the whole jacket, but it's not a knit, it won't stretch. Because it's okay, the fit of it is just like I would a woven piece of fabric, but I just love the beauty of the knit. And so I made the knit jacket. Okay? So, other than that, I fuse woven fabrics. There's 4 reasons I fuse. One is to retard wrinkling, one is to add body, one is to stabilize, and one is to make a sheer fabric more opaque. And those are my reasons. And then we have suggestions on how to fuse using our fusible, and we go from there. Okay? But I think we all need a little touch-up. Fusible interfacing is a great asset. I guess it's the great way. It's just a part of our repertoire that we should have, because as we're using fabrics and understanding them, to add fusible to them gives us a whole new arena of what we can do with them and how we can use them. Okay? All right. I have a question on Nikki's top. Nikki's top is 215, and I've had a couple of these. So I wanted to address it. Her comment on this is that the neckline is too low for her, and she doesn't want it to be that low. So it doesn't matter why, doesn't matter any of that stuff. It's too low, and she doesn't like it, so how does she change it? And I'm going to tell you how to simply do this. I'm going to extend the shoulder seam closer to the base of the neck edge. When I increase the part that I start the drape from, you can see I'm going to cover, that cross is going to come higher up on the body. So you don't have to change where they're sewn or how they're threaded or anything like that. I'm just going to increase towards center front where the drape starts, where the cross starts from. So take that up, and I would start with 1 inch. And I would go and do the same on the front as you do on the back. Just extend the shoulder seam in and then redraw the neckline in the back. And then what that will do is make these a little bit wider. But more importantly than even being wider, it will help them to cross at a higher point. So my cross point will be higher than what it is here. And that's simply all you have to do. This is on the fold. So as I make it 1 inch up, it'll actually be 2 inches, wider in fabric, but that's not a problem. It's going to cross. You don't need to change any of the other pieces. It's just a really easy fix, and let me know how that goes. Okay? All right. Then I wanted to talk about pants, because what should you use to interface knit? Oh, what should you use to interface knit neck facing? Well, I don't think I know what that sounds like dick knock. That sounds like a knock knock joke. Who's on first? Knit neck facing. I don't know how to knit. If you have a neck facing and it's out of knit, you don't need anything. You don't need interfacing on anything anymore, you guys. Do I dare risk jumping off the cliff and saying that? Recognize that, look, sewing... I have to refrain myself and ask myself, how do I say this kindly? Is it fair that the sewing industry is maybe outdated? Is that a possibility? I think that the whole thing we're trying to do is bring sewing in how it's being done in stores, how it's being done in ready-to-wear. And many of you said, well, why have I been doing this for this many years? I don't know. I can just tell you that the stores haven't been doing it that way. So I'm just trying to update you. As far as fusing facings, yeah, that's really dated. A facing, by definition, secures the raw edge. Why do I need to secure what secures the raw edge? That's just overkill is what it is. Or it's really, really bad fabric. But it doesn't matter. Even if it's bad fabric, it will secure the raw edge, and that's all it needs to do. So kind of, as if I were using those patterns and their directions, I would ask myself, is there a better, easier way? I don't know. But I do know that's the number one, or it's probably a really common response that we get about our patterns, is that they are updated. They're simple. They're simple because they're updated, and everything's been simplified. That's not fair. Okay, are we okay with that? Okay. All right, we're going to ask a couple more questions, then I want to talk about pants. On 6012, which is George's shirt, I made a 2-inch sway back adjustment. On the shirt? Okay. When the back was put on the fold, the top of the pattern was distorted. Should I restore the top of the pattern to the original shape or sew as is? That's a really good one for our sway back, for our commonly asked questions, because we definitely have answered this before, and I'm going to put that on there so you know. Okay, when you do a sway back, if this is the center back, you take a little dart that goes from the center back to nothing over to the side seam. So what she's saying is, if I'm understanding correctly, and sometimes I repeat these questions to make sure I'm understanding correctly. Her pattern still lays flat because she's got a pivot point, but if she tries to put that on the fold, it's not on the fold. You can see it's distorted there. So you should true up this line from here to here. You don't need to bend it in. You've already shortened the length by doing the sway back. Adding a little bit of circumference isn't going to hurt anything. It's not going to nullify the sway back. So that you still can put it on the fold, just take this end and just put it on the fold. And you'll add a little bit of circumference, but you could take that out in the side seam if you wanted to. Again, kind of if we can think through when we ask these questions, is it length, is it circumference, is it depth? This is a depth issue, but by adding a little bit of circumference, I'm not nullifying the depth issue that I've changed. Okay? Okay. Hopefully that made sense. Okay. We're okay? Okay, so let's talk about pants, as much as we've talked about pants. And I know lots of you are getting it. I see great pants. I go to workshops. I mean, y'all know I love going to workshops just so I get to say hi to you guys. But I also like going to workshops because I see such progress. And the progress is for me what this is all about. It's really fun to stay in my little castle. I have to tell you, for 20 years of flipping all over the country, it's really nice to stay in my little castle. But I remember thinking one day I wanted to get to a point where I enjoyed going rather than having to go. And trust me, even when I had to go, I made the best of it. But it's so nice to really enjoy every trip I go on. And it's just fun because I know there's great women. I know I'm going to meet a bunch of great people or see good friends, as many of you have become. So it's all win-win. But mainly what I still do is I learn from you. And I learn what your needs are and the way you think. And that's really important for me. That's, like I said, what it's all about. So there are several pants issues. They are the same issues, so that's good news. They're the same ones. It's not like we've discovered new ones because there's no new ones to discover. So they're the same pant issues. We're just not taking the time. You have to take the time. I got an email the other day, and something said in there that there just is no shortcuts, are there? And no, you know, years ago I said to my tennis teacher, when am I going to be good? And he said, well, it depends on how much you practice. And that's just true with sewing. You know, I was doing a fold over elastic the other day, and it's so pretty. The stitching was so right on both sides and yada yada. I went on and on. I thought, how did I get this good? And then I thought, oh yeah, I've made 100 of these so far. You don't have to make 100. But it's in the doing that we just will get better and better. And so I love what I do because I get better in the process, and that's fun for me. So with pants, you have to watch this information. You do. And when you watch it, you'll get it. You will get it. But mainly we did a pants in the very beginning because pants were always... what you had to understand to get it right. You really had to understand pants. And if you didn't understand pants, you'd never get it right. That you wouldn't luck into getting it right sometimes like you would on a top or something else. With pants, the components, you had to understand the components. So we've done several pants videos. Or not videos, I'm sorry, webcasts. We do have a pants DVD. That's another issue. But with the pants webcast, there is one that we did last summer. And we did it right between the Spiffy. It was all the Spiffy ladies who stayed between Spiffy 1 and Spiffy 2. And so we had them bring their pant muslins, and we draped them. That's a really helpful one for you to watch and make reference to. I'm going to answer these questions because I want you to understand them, but I think it's really helpful if you go over those issues so where you can understand them. And I'm going to go over a couple things here. Okay? Okay. So the first question had to do with, and again, I'm going to differentiate because I'm going to say this is my crotch, this is my waist, and this is my crotch. And this is what's called length, and length can only go up or down. We know that. And then with my tape measure, this is my waist, and this is my crotch. And it's what goes around the rear end. Okay? So it goes like this. So what it means is I can actually change one of these without changing the other. So I can change the length of the tape measure, and you can see I'm not affecting the length that goes here. The goal is for L, C, and D to all function separately, and for me to identify which one is wrong, change the one that's wrong. That's a home run. So the question was, she had taken the dart, which is this, the tape measure, across the back, and the dart goes from here. I don't have a third hand, but the dart goes from here over to the side seam. She said, but now it's, to quote her, crawling up my butt. But, you know, you guys know what I'm talking about. I don't know a nice way to say that. And so she wanted to scoop. So if she scooped, that's the tape measure again, she'd go right back to the same problem exactly as she was. So if this is too short, then it's a length issue. It's not a tape measure issue. It's the French curve. It's not this. So instead of this being here, it should come down here to give her more length. It's actually going into her body higher than what it should. So that's when you add at the top and you add all the way around so that it drops the crotch down. If you scoop, you've gone right back to the exact same problem you're in. She says, I know you don't believe in scooping. No, I don't believe in scooping, but I don't believe in scooping because it doesn't solve the problem. Y'all can scoop as much as you want. Don't make this about me. I'm trying to help you get it to be right. So it's funny to me when you guys say stuff like, I know you don't believe in this. Well, there's a reason I don't believe in it. Okay, so that's the difference between length and the depth that comes around. And you have to differentiate which one's which, because sometimes when we take up that length and we shorten that tape measure, we discover that this length is too short, and so we have to bring it down all the way around so where they come in together. Okay? All right. The next pants question is, and I know we're out of time, but let me kind of finish on this, and then I'll answer any questions we have. I can tell it's getting close to an hour because this room gets incredibly hot. Okay? Even when we've replaced everything with LEDs, it still gets incredibly warm. Anyway, a lady had asked me about her pants, and she was trying to fix these pants. And she said, they're gapping at the back. Can I take in the center back seam? I said, no, don't take in the center back seams, because the center back seam on a pair of pants is angled and it's already bias. And if I take more in the center back seam, it will make it more bias. And what we know about bias is bias equals non-stable. So no, I don't want to do that. I said go to the side seams, go to the darts, you know, go to all the places equally. Don't go to center back seam. And she emailed back, well, the pants are already made. I've already got the pockets in. I've already da-da-da. Okay, so there's the negative of not making a muslin, is that it limits me where I can make the changes. So yes, if I go to center back seam, they're not going to feel right and they're not going to fit correctly. I mean, you know, she can get by with them, but recognize that when I have a muslin which has no style in it, then I can change the places where they need to be changed and then make the final pattern. If I don't make that muslin and I go to the final pattern, I'm going to lose options as to what things I can change to then fix the problem at hand. Okay, and I don't want you to be fixing stuff. I want you to do it right in the first place. Fixing on the sewing machine doesn't compare with getting the pattern to be correct to begin with. All right? Okay. I trued the line and put it on the fold, but the top of the back pattern piece now dips down a bit so it doesn't have the same curve at the top. Should I restore that? No. No, no, no. No, it will on the body. If you restore it back, then you've nullified the sway back. You've shortened it purposely because his body is shorter than the pattern. His or yours, whoever you're doing it on. No, no. Now don't straighten that. And those are good questions because that just comes from experience. When I say just straighten it up, and then you look at something else and say, oh, I'll just straighten this up too. No, stop. Don't straighten that up. When it sews to the yoke, it will be correct. But and that's exactly what I was saying when I was talking earlier about how once you start changing muslins and fixing them, you'll start to see what right looks like. Right now, you don't necessarily know what right looks like. You'll get used to that. So leave it like it is. Sew it up to the yoke. Go for it. Don't make any other changes. And then just let me know if you have questions. You can always email me after tonight. Okay, are we good? This was fun. How many types of pant muslins do you need to make sure you get the fit right? You should have a woven and a stretch. And I actually, if I could say, have 3. I have a good old Sally's pant, you know, regular dress pant, Ralph's pant, same thing. And then I have a yoga pant, which is just a regular knit. And then I'm going to have like a skinny jean. Because when the body gets tighter, it's kind of like having, if I can make a comparison, a jacket, a blouse, and a t-shirt in pants. We just call them all pants rather than giving them different names. But basically, I want a t-shirt pant and a blouse pant and then a jacket pant, if I can make that comparison. How do yokes, pants, shirts, jacket works? Are they similar to darts or are they more for style? No, yokes generally have darts built into them. So yokes are a way of, not in all cases they don't, but in most cases yokes have an ability to have the darts built into them. So instead of stitching darts, you're sewing pieces together. If you were to take Amy's skirt, for instance, that was our POM for last month, and if you laid down the yoke and laid down the skirt, you'll be able to see the pieces don't align exactly. There's a gap, and that gap is where the dart is built in. So it's kind of like a princess seam, a yoke is. When you sew it together, the darts are created as you sew those pieces together. Okay? Can you use the French dart on woven fabrics? Do you have a pattern for that? Yes and yes. Our French dart woven pattern would be 1825. Zoanne's Cape has a French dart in it. The 909, Marita's jacket, Easy Jacket, has a French dart in it that's woven. Yeah, French darts are not specific to knits. They're bust dart and waist dart combined. They can be woven, knit. We just started using them a lot because I kept being told that t-shirts didn't have darts, and that's like the most bizarre thing I have ever heard of in my life. I mean, maybe back at James Dean in 1950s didn't. And maybe World War II, what they gave the infantry men in World War II as a uniform didn't, but we're females. T-shirts need darts or else they have gaps. You're going to pick darts or gaps. You get to pick which one you want. I'm going to pick darts every time. All right, are we good? All right, so everybody, we will see you we'll see you on YouTube on Thursday, obviously. Monday, we've got a great thing planned for you also. We've just got some fun ideas coming out for you. Thanks so much for watching and being here, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. We'll have the May POM. I think May, unbelievable. I just wanted to mention one thing because I've gotten a lot of questions on this. Spiffy is sold out. Spiffy 1 is sold out. It's not fake. It's full. Spiffy 2, if you've been to Spiffy 1 before, Spiffy 2 still has openings, but Spiffy 1 is sold out. The New York buying trip is next week. I'm so excited for all of you. We'll see you in New York next week. Everybody else, happy sewing. Bye.